The night sky burned silver. Every wolf in the Crimson Ridge Pack stood beneath the blue moon, their bodies trembling as its sacred light poured over them. It was the night the moon goddess awakened sleeping spirits, the night young wolves discovered their true forms. But for Lyra, it was always the night she feared most. She stood at the edge of the ceremonial hill, surrounded by hundreds of shifting bodies, each waiting for the blessing of transformation. Her hands shook as she clutched a cracked necklace, a small pendant shaped like a half-moon, the last thing she had from her unknown parents. The Alpha's deep voice boomed across the clearing. Tonight the moon reveals her chosen. Let the blood of wolves answer her call. A chorus of howls broke through the night. One by one, young wolves shifted, bones snapping, fur bursting, eyes glowing. The air shimmered with energy and power. Families cheered as their children's wolves emerged. Lyra stood motionless. The power passed over her like wind through glass. Cold, empty, silent. She pressed a hand against her chest, praying she'd feel something, anything. But there was nothing. No pulse of a spirit, no whisper of a wolf. Then came the laughter. "Still nothing?" sneered Rhea, the Alpha's only daughter, her golden hair glinting in the moonlight. She stepped forward, her newly awakened wolf aura radiating dominance. "How pathetic. The moon goddess must have run out of wolves when she made you." A ripple of cruel laughter spread through the crowd. Lyra's throat tightened. "Please, not here," she whispered, but Rhea smirked and circled her like a predator. "Not here? You mean ever, don't you? You've been pretending for years, Lyra. Pretending you're one of us. But you're not. You're a curse born to shame the moon." The pack roared with laughter again, each voice like a dagger. Even the elders watched in silence. Lyra's adoptive mother, Mira, stood among them, eyes averted. She didn't speak, didn't move, didn't defend her. The rejection burned worse than any wound. Lyra clenched her fists. "Please stop." Rhea's grin widened. "Or what? You'll cry? Go on then, wolfless girl. Cry for your imaginary spirit." The moon dimmed behind a passing cloud, casting shadows across Lyra's face. Her eyes glistened, but she refused to let the tears fall. "Enough," said a deep, commanding voice. Alpha Darien, Rhea's father, had spoken. The entire crowd fell silent. For a moment, Lyra thought he would finally defend her. But instead, his tone was cold. "The blue moon accepts only those with wolf blood. If she remains wolfless after tonight, she will not be counted among the Crimson Ridge." Her heart stopped. What? "By sunrise," the Alpha continued, "she will leave this pack. The law of the moon is not to be broken." Gasps echoed around her. Even the night breeze seemed to pause. Rhea smirked victoriously. "Good riddance." Lyra turned to Mira, her adoptive mother, desperate for a word, a look, anything. But the woman only lowered her gaze. "I'm sorry, Lyra," she whispered. The crowd began to chant softly, an ancient farewell song for the banished. Lyra's knees buckled. She ran. Rain began to fall as she fled into the forest, her feet pounding against the wet earth. Her sobs mixed with the thunder in the distance. The blue moon shimmered faintly through the trees, watching her with quiet pity. "Why me?" she cried. "What did I do wrong? Goddess, why won't you let me belong?" Her voice broke as she fell to her knees beside the old stone well, the same place where she was found as a baby. The necklace in her hand glowed faintly, a strange silver pulse flickering beneath the surface. Then faintly she heard it. A howl. But it wasn't from the Crimson Ridge Pack. It was deeper, wilder, echoing from beyond the forest, ancient and powerful, as though it came from the mountain itself. Her head lifted slowly, her breath catching. The forest stilled. Another howl answered the first, closer this time. And then between the trees, two eyes appeared, glowing gold in the darkness. They were watching her, studying her. Lyra stumbled back. Who's there?" The eyes didn't move. They simply glimmered, almost curious. Then a tall shadow stepped forward, half hidden by fog. For a heartbeat, she thought she saw the outline of a man. Broad shoulders, long hair dripping with rain, and an aura that made the air tremble. But when lightning flashed, he was gone. Only the scent remained. Ancient, wild, intoxicating. Lyra pressed a trembling hand to her chest. The air felt heavy with something she couldn't name, something that whispered to her blood, awakening a warmth she had never felt before. "I'm not cursed," she whispered, tears mixing with rain. "I just haven't found my wolf yet." From somewhere in the darkness, a voice, soft but commanding, echoed like a breeze through her mind. "No, you were never meant to have one. You were meant to be something greater." She gasped and looked around, heart racing. No one was there. Only the forest, the rain, and the distant, fading howls of wolves that did not belong to Crimson Ridge. The necklace on her palm pulsed again, once, twice, then went dark. And in the distance, under the fading blue moon, a figure stood atop the mountain ridge, cloaked in silver light, watching her. The Alpha King. His golden eyes burned like suns as he whispered to the wind. "She's finally awakening." Every branch creaked like old bones, and the fog moved in slow, deliberate swirls, silver mist glowing faintly under the blue moon's dying light. Lyra stumbled through the mud, her breath ragged, her feet cut and bleeding. Every shadow looked alive. Every sound made her flinch. The rain had stopped, but the silence it left behind was worse. She pressed a trembling hand against a tree for balance. Her body shook from cold and heartbreak. The cruel words from the gathering still echoed in her head. Wolfless, curse, shame. Her throat tightened as she whispered to the night, "Why won't you answer me? Why won't you let me belong?" The forest didn't respond. It simply watched her, ancient and still. Lyra took another step, then another, until her knees gave out. She collapsed into the wet earth, panting. Her hands trembled as she lifted her face to the moon. "I have no one," she whispered. "If this is the end, then let me die under your light, not their hatred." Her voice broke, and then the forest moved. A low growl rippled through the fog. Lyra froze. Her heartbeat thundered in her ears. Slowly, she turned her head, and her blood turned to ice. Eyes, dozens of them, glowing in the mist. Yellow, red, silver. All staring. All closing in. Her pulse spiked. No. She tried to crawl backward, but her palms slipped in the mud. The shapes grew clearer now, wolves massive and wild, their fur gleaming like moonlight on steel. These weren't ordinary wolves. Their power pressed against the air itself. One stepped forward, lips curled, breath hot and misty. Lyra's tears blurred her vision. "Please. I didn't mean to trespass." The wolves didn't answer. They only circled her tighter. And then, a sound like thunder, a growl deeper than the rest, rolled through the air. The wolves froze instantly, ears dropping, tails lowering. From the thickest part of the mist, a giant silver wolf stepped out. Its fur shimmered faintly blue and its eyes burned gold. It didn't snarl. It didn't move to attack. It simply stared at her, unblinking, unthreatening. Lyra's breath came out shaky. "You're beautiful," she whispered. To her shock, the wolf bowed its head, slowly, respectfully. Lyra blinked in disbelief. What are you doing?" The wolf's golden eyes flickered, not with hunger, but recognition. Then, a voice, low, calm, and commanding, broke through the fog. "Enough." Every wolf around her bowed instantly. The air itself seemed to kneel. Lyra's gaze darted toward the source. A tall figure emerged from the mist, cloaked in black and silver. His presence felt ancient, as if the forest itself belonged to him. Each step he took stirred the air. When he spoke again, his voice was quiet, yet it carried power like thunder wrapped in silk. Stand down. The wolves retreated at once, forming a silent guard line behind him. Lyra tried to stand, but her legs gave way. Her body screamed from exhaustion. The man stopped a few feet away. His cloak trailed behind him, the edges glinting faintly like starlight. When the wind shifted, she saw his face, sharp jawline, piercing golden eyes, a calm, unreadable expression that hid centuries of command. He didn't look mortal. He looked eternal. Lyra's heart pounded painfully. She took a step back, nearly falling again. Please don't hurt me. I didn't mean to enter your land. He didn't answer. Instead, he crouched slightly as if studying her. You're the one who ran from Crimson Ridge. Her breath caught. Hey, how do you know that? The forest whispers, he said softly. And tonight, it whispered your name. Lyra frowned in confusion. My name? The corner of his mouth lifted faintly. Lyra, the girl without a wolf. The title pierced her like a blade. Her eyes glistened. Don't call me that. His gaze softened for the briefest second, like moonlight brushing across water. Then tell me what you would rather be called. Lyra hesitated. Her throat was dry. Just Lyra. Very well, Lyra, he said quietly, his voice like velvet, but edged with command. Tell me, why do you run beneath the moon's protection with no pack, no scent, and no wolf? I was cast out, she whispered. Because I have none of those things. He tilted his head slightly, as though the answer interested him more than it should have. And yet the wolves didn't kill you. Lyra looked up, realizing the truth. The massive wolves still circled them, alert, but calm. None attacked. None growled. Why? She asked, voice trembling. Why aren't they attacking me? Because they sense it, he said. Sense what? That you're not prey. Her lips parted. Then what am I? He studied her for a long, quiet moment. Then he straightened to his full height, tall, regal, otherworldly. The fog seemed to bend around him, as though afraid to touch. Finally, he said in a voice that carried both reverence and warning, You're the one the moon wouldn't name. The words rippled through her chest. She stepped back. What does that mean? His golden eyes lingered on her, unreadable. It means you don't belong to the moon's pack. Her heart sank. Then I truly am cursed. Or chosen, he murmured. The line between both is thinner than you think. Silence stretched between them, tense, fragile, yet magnetic. She couldn't look away. Something in his voice called to her, the same way the moon called the tides. He turned slightly, glancing at the forest beyond. You're cold. Before she could respond, he lifted a hand. Two armored figures appeared from the mist, tall, silent guards with silver armor bearing the mark of a crescent and crown. Her pulse quickened. Who are you? He looked back at her, the faintest smirk ghosting across his lips. You'll find out soon enough. I'm not going anywhere with strangers, she said, voice shaking but firm. His smirk deepened, not mocking, but impressed. You defy even now. Good. Good? He stepped closer, close enough for her to feel the heat of his presence despite the cold. The weak beg for mercy. The strong question destiny. Lyra's chest rose and fell rapidly. I don't even know your name. He leaned forward slightly, his golden eyes catching hers like fire catching dry leaves. Then remember it well. A gust of wind swirled around them, carrying the faint scent of wild forest and rain. I am Kael, he said, his voice low, ancient and commanding. Alpha King of the 13 realms. The title hit her like thunder. Her knees trembled. The Alpha King, the ruler of all wolfkind. The one said to descend directly from the moon goddess herself. She dropped her gaze instantly. Forgive me, your majesty. Don't kneel. He interrupted. his tone calm but firm. Not before me. She hesitated. Why? Because the last time someone knelt before me, he said, eyes darkening, they never rose again. Her heart skipped a beat. She didn't understand if it was a warning or protection. Kael turned to his guards. Take her to the palace. Lyra's eyes widened. What? No, please, I can't go there. Your people will... Obey me, he commanded softly. The guards moved forward. The wolves lowered their heads, parting the path ahead. Lyra took a step back, panic flashing across her face. Why are you doing this? What do you want from me? Kael paused, his expression unreadable. Then, for the first time, his voice softened, not with power, but with something she didn't recognize. I don't know yet, he said. But the moon led you here for a reason. I intend to find out why. He turned away, his cloak catching the wind like liquid shadow. As the guards gently lifted Lyra to her feet, she looked one last time at the Alpha King, his silhouette framed against the fading blue moon. Something in her chest ached. Not fear, not anger. Something deeper. Kael's golden eyes met hers once more. Don't fear the dark, Lyra, he murmured. It's where the light is born. And with that, the wolves howled again, their cries echoing through the mist as the girl without a wolf was led into the shadows, toward a destiny she could never have imagined. The air was thick with the scent of burning sage and moonstone. A soft hum echoed somewhere, ancient and soothing, like the hum of the earth itself. Her lashes fluttered open. For a moment she thought she was dreaming. The bed beneath her wasn't straw or dirt. It was silk, cool, smooth, and almost glowing under a pale blue light. She blinked and sat up slowly, clutching the sheets to her chest. Her head spun. The last thing she remembered was the forest, the silver wolf. Him. Her eyes darted around. The room was vast, a chamber carved of white marble and veined gold. Walls glittered faintly with silver runes that pulsed like slow heartbeats. High-arched windows revealed the moon, still full, still haunting, pouring light into the room. Lyra's breath hitched. This isn't real, she whispered. I must be dead. Her bare feet touched the cold floor. The moment her skin met the stone, she flinched. It wasn't normal cold. It was energy. The floor hummed beneath her toes, alive with invisible power. On the far wall, a giant emblem shimmered, a wolf head within a crescent crown. Her chest tightened. The Lycan King's crest. Panic hit like lightning. She stumbled to the door and grabbed the golden handle. Locked. Lyra slammed her fists against it. Let me out! Instantly, 2 armored guards appeared from the other side. They were tall, broad-shouldered, and silent, their armor etched with glowing marks. One spoke, voice calm but deep. You're awake. Where am I? She demanded. Why am I here? In the palace, the guard said simply, by the king's command. I never asked to be here, she snapped, voice cracking. Let me go. The guard's gaze softened slightly, though his tone remained formal. You are not a prisoner, miss. You are under the Alpha King's protection. Lyra stared at him, disbelief flooding her chest. Protection? From what? Neither guard answered. Instead, the door behind them opened slowly, with no sound, only a shift in the air that made the flames in the torches bow as if in respect. Kael entered. He wasn't wearing armor this time, only a dark tunic embroidered with silver threads that shimmered like moonlight. His hair, black as storm clouds, fell slightly over his eyes, and every step he took commanded silence. Lyra instinctively took a step back. The guards bowed instantly. Your Majesty. Kael nodded once. Leave us. The guards obeyed without hesitation, closing the door behind them. Now it was just the 2 of them. The air seemed to thicken. Kael's golden eyes swept over her, not in lust but in study, as if she were a riddle he'd waited years to solve. You're safe, he said finally. His voice was quiet, but it vibrated through the room. Lyra's throat felt dry. You call this safe? You had me dragged here. I saved you, he corrected calmly. Your pack would have left your body in the woods. I didn't ask to be saved. No, he said, taking a slow step forward. But the moon did. She blinked, frowning. What does that mean? Kael's gaze lingered on her, unwavering. There are forces older than our packs, Lyra. Some whispers are not meant to be ignored. I'm just a girl, she said softly. I have no wolf, no power, no worth. Why would the moon care about me? He stopped a few feet away, his presence both steady and overwhelming. That's what I intend to find out. Their eyes met, his sharp and unreadable, hers wide and uncertain. The silence between them was almost electric. Then Lyra noticed something. On his hand, a faint mark, silver and shaped like a crescent claw. It shimmered once as the moonlight touched it. What is that? She asked. Kael glanced at it briefly, then back at her. A mark of lineage. It burns when something it recognizes draws near. Her brows furrowed. Recognizes. He didn't answer. Instead, he turned slightly toward the nearest pillar and whispered something in a language she didn't know. The runes on the walls brightened, and suddenly a cold wind blew through the room. A woman appeared, cloaked in white. Her eyes were blindfolded with golden silk. Her presence felt ancient, older than Kael himself. Lyra gasped, stepping back. Who? Kael's voice was low. The royal seer. The woman bowed her head slightly. You called, Your Majesty. Kael's tone was quiet, reverent. Tell me what the moon revealed. The seer's voice was soft and echoing as though it came from another world. The signs have aligned. The night you brought her here, the stars burned blue. The prophecy awakens. Lyra looked between them, heart pounding. Prophecy? What prophecy? The seer turned toward her. Though blindfolded, it felt as if those unseen eyes pierced right through Lyra's soul. Her voice dropped to a whisper. The wolfless shall awaken the beast who feels nothing. The room fell utterly silent. Kael's jaw tightened. Lyra's breath caught in her throat. What does that even mean? She asked, fear creeping into her voice. The seer tilted her head. In time, child, you will understand. Your fate is bound to his, by blood and by fire. Lyra shook her head, stepping back. No, this can't be. I don't belong here. Kael turned to the seer sharply. Enough. The seer bowed again, her form dissolving into mist that faded with the wind. Lyra looked at him, trembling. A beast who feels nothing. That's you, isn't it? Kael's expression didn't change, but his silence confirmed everything. I want to go home, she whispered. There is no home for you there anymore. Then I'll find one elsewhere. You won't make it past the border, he said evenly. The forest itself wouldn't let you leave. Lyra's voice cracked. Why? Why can't you just let me go? Kael stepped closer, slowly, deliberately, his gaze holding hers with quiet intensity. Because the moon marked you the moment you entered my forest. He lifted his hand slightly. You felt it, didn't you? When the wolves bowed. Lyra's lips parted, remembering. Yes, she whispered. That wasn't fear, he said softly. That was recognition. I don't want this, she breathed. Kael's golden eyes softened just barely, a flicker of something human beneath all the power. Nor did I. Silence hung heavy between them, broken only by the low hum of the runes. Lyra turned away, pacing toward the window. The moon shone bright and cruel, bathing her in cold light. You think I'm part of some prophecy? I think you're mistaken. Perhaps, he said, voice barely above a whisper. But the mark never lies. What mark? He hesitated for a second, then took a slow step toward her. Come here. No. Lyra. Her name from his lips sounded different, like a promise and a command all at once. Against her will, she turned. He reached out, his hand hovering inches from her arm. "If I touch you, the truth will show." She swallowed hard. "And if it doesn't? Then I will let you walk free." Lyra hesitated, heart hammering. Every part of her wanted to run, yet some invisible pull rooted her in place. Slowly, she extended her arm. Kael's fingers brushed her skin. The moment they touched, heat exploded through her veins. She gasped, clutching her chest. Light flared beneath her skin. Bright, white, and alive. The markings spread across her forearm like liquid fire, curling into the shape of a faint wolf made of moonlight. Her eyes widened. What is this?" Kael's gaze darkened, awe flickering beneath his composure. "The king's mark," he whispered. "The bond of the moon." Lyra stumbled back, breathing hard. The light faded, leaving behind a faint silver scar. "I don't understand," she said, voice shaking. "Why me?" Kael looked at her with something close to pain, the kind that wasn't physical. "Because the moon doesn't choose kings," he said softly. "It chooses balance." Lyra clutched her marked arm, tears burning behind her eyes. "I didn't ask for this fate." "No one ever does," Kael murmured. For a long moment, they simply stood there, the wolfless girl and the Alpha King, bound by a light neither could control. And somewhere far above them the moon glowed brighter, watching, waiting, and whispering the start of a love the stars themselves had written long before they were born. The palace of the Lycans slept under a silver moon. Its spires glittered like frozen spears, and the torches burned with blue fire, the sacred flame of their kind. But behind the grand marble doors, inside chambers where no servant dared enter, a sound tore through the stillness. The sound of a king breaking. It was not a roar of dominance, but of torment. Kael's voice cracked like thunder as his body convulsed. The veins beneath his skin glowed faintly, pulsing with molten light. His claws tore into the edge of the stone bedpost, leaving deep marks. The curse was spreading again, faster, wilder. In his reflection, he saw what he feared most. Half of his face had shifted. The beast within him clawed for freedom, burning through the restraint of his royal bloodline. Outside his chamber, guards paced nervously. "Should we call the royal priest?" one whispered. The captain shook his head grimly. "He forbade it. The king faces his curse alone." But not everyone obeyed fear. Down the hall, Lyra stood barefoot in her silk nightdress, her heart racing as screams echoed through the walls. The sound wasn't just painful, it called to something deep inside her, a pulse that matched the glow beneath her skin. The faint mark the king's touch had awakened earlier now shimmered through the fabric on her arm. She couldn't stay still. Ignoring the guards' protests, she pushed past them. "Move!" "Lady Lyra." "I said move." There was a new fire in her voice, fragile yet fierce. She shoved open the heavy doors. The heat and energy inside hit her like a storm. Kael was on the ground, half-shifted, his eyes blazing gold, his breath ragged. Claws had torn through his robe, his chest heaved, each breath breaking between growls. When he saw her, he snarled, "Leave, now." Lyra froze, trembling, but didn't move. "You're hurting." "I said leave." His voice cracked as his body twisted again, bones reforming, his fangs flashing. "You don't understand. When it takes over, it kills everything near me." She stepped closer despite the warning. "Then let it kill me too." The words silenced him. His beast's snarl faltered. Her voice quivered but stayed steady. "You think pain is new to me, Kael? My pack mocked me, my mother cast me aside, the moon rejected me. But for the first time when you looked at me, I didn't feel invisible." The mark on her arm began to glow brighter. The same light mirrored on Kael's chest, a mark he had carried for years, sealed beneath layers of curse and shame. The air between them thickened with unseen magic. Kael gasped. fighting the beast's control. You shouldn't. Lyra moved closer until she was just inches away. Let me help you. Her hands trembled as she touched his chest, directly over the glowing mark. The moment her skin met his, the entire room pulsed with light. The beast roared inside him, shaking the walls. But then, it began to calm. Kael's body eased back, his eyes flickering between gold and silver, between beast and man. His claws retracted slowly, his breath steadied. For the first time in years, the curse obeyed. He fell forward, catching himself on one hand, sweat dripping from his temples. Lyra was kneeling beside him, her own body shaking from the energy she had just absorbed. She looked up into his eyes, not with fear, but awe. You're not a monster, she whispered. Kael's gaze softened, something rare, almost forbidden. You shouldn't have come. If I hadn't, you'd be gone, she replied. He reached up, brushing a strand of hair from her face, his hand trembling. You don't understand, Lyra. This curse isn't sickness, it's blood. It's in me. Every full moon it hunts for a bond strong enough to kill or save me. Lyra's lips parted. And now that bond is me? His expression darkened with conflict. If the prophecy is true, yes. The wolfless shall awaken the beast who feels nothing. Lyra swallowed. Then what happens if the beast loves me? For a moment the air froze. Kael looked away, the tension between power and vulnerability crackling like lightning. Then you'll die with me, he said finally. Because the beast does not love. It devours. The silence that followed was deafening. Lyra stood, her bare feet on the cold marble, staring at him as moonlight flooded the room. She walked to the balcony and gazed at the sky, at the silver moon that had denied her all her life. Maybe the moon made a mistake, she whispered. Kael rose behind her, his presence tall and shadowed, his breath still uneven. Or maybe it never makes mistakes. When she turned, his eyes were human again, tired, haunted, but undeniably alive. The faintest smile ghosted his lips. You calmed it. No one's ever done that. I didn't calm it, she said softly. It calmed for me. He took a slow step toward her. Every inch of distance vanished under the weight of something unspoken. Longing, fear, destiny. Kael lifted her hand gently, his thumb brushing the new mark glowing faintly on her wrist. This is the bond of the moon, he murmured. It ties us whether we wish it or not. Lyra's heart pounded. Then what are we now? Kael's eyes flickered with pain and want. Bound, but doomed. He turned away suddenly, pacing to the moon sanctum, a pool of silver light where ancient runes pulsed under the floor. You should rest. Tomorrow the council will hear of this mark. They won't welcome it. Lyra's voice softened behind him. You're afraid? He stopped. I fear nothing. Then why won't you look at me? He turned. His control snapped for just a moment. He crossed the space between them in 2 strides, his hand cupping her face. Because when I look at you, I feel everything. The words hung between them, heavy and forbidden. She didn't pull away. For a heartbeat, the world was silent. Just the hum of magic, the pull of the moon, and 2 souls who were never meant to touch. His gaze drifted to her lips, but he stopped himself. If I start this, Lyra, I won't stop. Maybe I don't want you to, she whispered. The tension snapped, not with a kiss, but with the faintest brush of breath, a promise of something both beautiful and dangerous. Kael stepped back first, his chest rising. Rest, he said quietly, his tone returning to that royal command. Tomorrow changes everything. She watched him leave through the glowing archway, his shadow fading into the silver light. When the doors shut, Lyra pressed her palm to her chest. The mark beneath her skin pulsed in rhythm with his. And somewhere deep within the palace, in the sealed archives of the Moon Oracle, a forgotten prophecy awoke again. glowing faintly on ancient stone. When the cursed king finds his light, the moon shall bleed silver, and the beast shall choose love over power. Lyra looks out the window as dawn breaks. In the forest below, wolves kneel, not to Kael, but to her. And from the shadows a voice whispers, "She's not the curse, she's the cure." Morning came softly over the Lycan kingdom, but peace did not. The palace was a living mirror of gold and marble, its vast corridors echoing with gossip. Every servant, every guard, every noble tongue carried the same rumor. The cursed king has chosen a wolfless girl. By the time the first light of dawn kissed the throne spires, the whispers had turned into fire. Lyra stood before a mirror she dared not look into. Her reflection was wrapped in the royal silks the attendants had forced upon her. Silks she felt unworthy of. They shimmered like morning frost, too fine for someone who had slept on dirt just 2 nights ago. Outside her chamber she could hear them. The voices. Wolfless. The moon never blessed her. She carries a curse. How could the king bring her here? She must have done something to him. Some spell. Each word sliced deeper than any claw. She gripped the edge of the table until her knuckles turned white. "You don't belong here," her mind whispered. "You never did." And yet, the mark on her wrist pulsed faintly, glowing like a heartbeat that didn't care for rank or rumor. A soft knock broke her thoughts. The door opened, and a servant bowed low. "My lady, His Majesty requests your presence in the throne hall." Her chest tightened. His Majesty, not Kael, not the man who had looked at her as if she was something worth saving, but the king. She nodded silently and followed. The throne hall was vast, its ceilings painted with the legends of Lycan's past. Wolves carved from silver stone lined the pillars, watching silently as courtiers and nobles gathered in their jeweled robes. Every pair of eyes turned when Lyra entered. A hush swept through the room, the kind that stings more than sound. Whispers flitted like ghosts. "She's the one." "That girl?" "Impossible. Look at her. No aura, no wolf, nothing royal." Lady Selene stood near the dais, dressed in moon-white silk that shimmered with arrogance. Her beauty was flawless, the kind carved from cruelty and entitlement. Her gaze slid over Lyra like a blade dipped in honey. My, Selene murmured, loud enough for the others to hear. "The king has strange tastes." The nobles chuckled softly. Lyra lowered her eyes, her throat tightening. Then the sound of footsteps silenced the hall. Kael entered, dressed in obsidian armor trimmed with silver. The air shifted, heavier, thicker. Even the torches seemed to bow to his presence. Every noble fell to one knee. "Your Majesty." But his eyes weren't on them. They went straight to Lyra. For a moment, everything else vanished. The whispers, the fear, the walls. It was just his gaze, steady and sharp, grounding her in a world that wanted to tear her apart. He gestured. "Rise." The courtiers obeyed. Kael sat upon his throne, carved from moonstone and shadow. His aura filled the hall like a tide. Then his voice echoed, calm but edged. "I hear there are rumors about the girl I brought from the forest." No one dared answer. Lady Selene stepped forward gracefully, her voice dripping with feigned concern. "Your Majesty, forgive us, but your subjects only wish to understand who she is, and why she deserves a place at your side." The words were coated in poison. Kael's gaze hardened. "Deserve?" Selene bowed slightly. "Surely a king as wise as you wouldn't let a mere—" She smiled faintly. "Outsider take advantage of him," the court murmured. Lyra's chest burned with humiliation. Every instinct screamed at her to flee, to vanish. But Kael's voice cut through the noise, sharp and calm as steel. "Enough." Selene's smile faltered. Kael rose from his throne, his cape brushing the floor like black fire. "No one questions my decisions in this hall. The girl is under my protection." The murmurs died instantly. Selene tilted her head, feigning sweetness. Protection, Your Majesty. That word carries meaning. Kael's eyes didn't waver. Then let the meaning be clear. He turned to the assembly and declared, "From this day forward, she stands as my chosen, my Luna." The silence that followed was absolute. Then, gasps, murmurs, outrage. "The Luna? She's wolfless. Impossible." Selene's mask of composure cracked. "You can't be serious." Kael's voice deepened. "Do you doubt your king?" Selene's hands trembled, hidden behind her gown. "I only fear for you. She'll bring ruin to the crown." Kael stepped closer until they were eye to eye. "Then let ruin come, and see who survives it." Every word struck like a blade of dominance. The air trembled with raw power. Behind him, Lyra's pulse raced. She didn't understand why he did it, why he'd risk his title for her, but the way he looked at her told her enough. This wasn't strategy. It was instinct. Something ancient, dangerous, and unbreakable had bound them. Selene lowered herself slowly, her gown rippling like cold water as she bent the knee. But her eyes burned with quiet fury. "As you wish, my king." She smiled, a predator's smile. "Then she'll fall like every Luna before her." Kael's jaw tightened. "Watch your tongue, Selene." "I always do," she said sweetly. As she rose and glided away, her words lingered in the air like venom. When the court was dismissed, the hall emptied slowly. Lyra lingered near a pillar, unable to move. Kael approached her, his tone low. "You handled yourself well?" She let out a shaky breath. "I didn't say anything." "That's what made it powerful." He paused, his gaze softening just slightly. "Do not listen to their whispers. The moon sees more than bloodlines and birthrights." Lyra shook her head. "You shouldn't have said that, about me being Luna. They'll hate me for it." He smiled faintly. "They already did. I just gave them a reason to fear you instead." Her heart skipped. "And if they come for me?" His voice dropped, dangerous and tender at once. "Then they come for me." She met his eyes, that impossible mix of darkness and light, and realized the truth. The court might whisper, the nobles might plot, but she was no longer alone in this fight. Outside, the moon rose early, blood red over the horizon, a warning of storms yet to come. And far in the shadowed wing of the palace, Lady Selene stood before a mirror, her reflection flickering with magic as she whispered into it, "If the moon binds him to her, then I'll make the moon bleed." The glass rippled with silver smoke and a shadowed voice answered, "Then it begins." The palace had many wonders, halls of gold, towers that touched the clouds, but Lyra's favorite place became the Garden of Moons. It was said the goddess herself once walked there, her tears turning into moonflowers that bloomed only under silver light. The air smelled of night jasmine and frost, the ground glowing faintly beneath each step. Here, the court's whispers could not reach her. Here, she could breathe. She came every morning before dawn, when mist clung to the air like a secret. Her hands trembled as she tried to feel her wolf, that buried pulse she'd never known. "Calm your thoughts," Kael's voice came from behind her. She turned sharply. The Alpha King was already there, dressed not in royal armor but in simple dark tunic and boots, his hair unbound, the moonlight making him look less like a king and more like something ancient, a creature caught between curse and grace. "You're late," she murmured, trying to mask the flutter in her chest. He smiled faintly. "Kings aren't late. Time waits for them." "And what about wolfless girls?" He stepped closer, lowering his gaze. "They make time stop." Her heart skipped, not because of the words, but because he meant them. "Close your eyes," he said. She obeyed. "Now listen, the wolf doesn't speak in words. It speaks in rhythm, in heartbeats, breath, the sound of the wind. Feel that rhythm inside you. His hand hovered near her back. Not touching, just there. His presence alone was grounding, steady, unshakable. "Don't search for your wolf," he whispered. "Invite her." Lyra tried. She breathed deeply, her pulse sinking with the rustle of leaves, the hush of distant waves. For a heartbeat she felt something, a flicker deep in her chest. Then pain shot through her veins and she gasped. Kael caught her before she fell, his arms firm around her waist. The contact sent a rush of heat through them both. "Easy," he murmured. "You're forcing it." Her breath trembled against his neck. "I can't do this. The moon rejected me." He lifted her chin, forcing her to meet his eyes. "The moon doesn't reject, it waits. Sometimes, it waits for the right hands to break its silence." She stared at him, lost for words. "You really believe that?" she whispered. His voice softened. "I wouldn't be here if I didn't." Days turned into weeks. Every night they met in secret corners of the palace, the training grounds, the moon balcony, the quiet libraries filled with forgotten scrolls. Lyra began to laugh again, not because life was easy, but because Kael found ways to make it lighter. He taught her to fight like a wolf, not with claws but with heart. She tripped often, and every time she did, he was there, steadying her with that half smile that felt both infuriating and intoxicating. "You're smiling," she said once, breathless from training. He raised an eyebrow. "And that surprises you?" "I didn't know kings were allowed to look human." For the first time he laughed, a deep, raw sound that startled her. "Don't tell anyone. It might ruin my reputation." Their eyes met, and something unspoken lingered there, a pull that both feared but couldn't escape. That night after training, Kael led her deeper into the garden, where no guards dared to follow. A silver fountain shimmered at the center, reflecting the blue moon above. "This place," he said quietly, "is where I swore my first oath as king." Lyra watched him closely. "You sound like it wasn't a happy oath." He didn't answer at first. His eyes stayed on the water, haunted and far away. "Do you know why the moon cursed me?" he asked finally. Lyra shook her head. His jaw tightened. "Because I killed my brother." She froze. "He was Alpha before me. The people loved him, and he loved the war. He wanted to conquer every pack that didn't kneel. I tried to stop him, and in the end, the only way was through blood." The silence was heavy, sacred. "The moon watched," he continued, "and when the crown touched my head, it burned. She marked me, to never feel peace again." Lyra's voice trembled. "You killed to protect your people. That's not a curse." He met her eyes. "It is when the person you killed was the only one who ever called you brother." A tear slipped down her cheek before she realized it. She reached for his hand, hesitantly, and when he didn't pull away, she held it. "You're not a monster, Kael," she whispered. "You're just broken in a way the moon didn't understand." Something flickered in his gaze, something softer, almost fragile. "No one's ever said that to me," he murmured. "Then maybe no one's seen you clearly before." A faint wind stirred the moonflowers, scattering silver petals around them. Kael lifted her hand to his chest, to the faint mark that glowed there whenever he lost control. "You shouldn't touch me," he warned. "The beast doesn't like to share its cage." "Then maybe it needs to learn," she whispered. The mark pulsed beneath her palm. His breath caught, his hand closing gently over hers. "Lyra." She looked up, eyes wide, tears glistening like stars. "You said the moon doesn't reject. It waits. Maybe it was waiting for this." For a heartbeat neither moved. Then the world itself seemed to slow, the wind pausing, the moon holding its breath. Kael's lips brushed hers, light as air, fragile as hope. It wasn't a kiss of hunger, but of surrender. When he deepened it, The mark on her wrist and his chest ignited, threads of blue fire connecting them. Light spiraled between their bodies, swirling in luminous patterns that wrapped around their hearts. Lyra gasped softly. "What's happening?" Kael's voice was a whisper against her lips. "The moon has spoken." The blue flame settled into their skin, leaving a faint intertwined sigil, half wolf, half moon. They stood there in silence, bathed in silver glow. Neither dared speak, as if a single word might break the spell. Kael finally exhaled. "You're bound to me now, body and soul." Lyra's hand trembled. "What does that mean?" He hesitated. "It means your fate and mine are one. If I fall, you fall. If you rise, I rise," she finished. Their eyes met again, and this time there was no fear. Only the strange, aching certainty that something bigger than either of them had begun. Later, when the moon began to fade, Kael turned to her one last time before leaving. "You've awakened something the gods buried long ago," he said quietly. "Be careful, Lyra. Love is the most dangerous kind of magic." She smiled faintly, her heart still racing. "Then let it burn." As he walked away, her fingers brushed the glowing mark on her wrist. It pulsed once, like a heartbeat answering his. For the first time in her life, she didn't feel wolfless. She felt alive. High above the garden, Lady Selene watched from a hidden balcony, her eyes cold as frost. In her hand, a shard of mirror shimmered, showing the two lovers' intertwined marks. "So the curse chooses love," she whispered. "Then love shall break him." The shard cracked, and the moon dimmed behind clouds. From the grand balcony, the lichen palace shimmered like a living diamond, torches burning blue, the scent of roses and roasted boar in the air, laughter echoing down marble halls. It was a night meant for peace, for renewal, for the king and his chosen Luna to be blessed beneath the moon's gaze, and yet, beneath the perfume of joy, something darker moved, something venomous. He was Alpha before me. The people loved him, and he loved the war. He wanted to conquer every pack that didn't kneel. I tried to stop him, and in the end, the only way was through blood. The silence was heavy, sacred. "The moon watched," he continued, "and when the crown touched my head, it burned. She marked me to never feel peace again." Lyra's voice trembled. "You killed to protect your people. That's not a curse." He met her eyes. "It is when the person you killed was the only one who ever called you brother." A tear slipped down her cheek before she realized it. She reached for his hand, hesitantly, and when he didn't pull away, she held it. "You're not a monster, Kael," she whispered. "You're just broken in a way the moon didn't understand." Something flickered in his gaze, something softer, almost fragile. "No one's ever said that to me," he murmured. "Then maybe no one's seen you clearly before." A faint wind stirred the moonflowers, scattering silver petals around them. Kael lifted her hand to his chest, to the faint mark that glowed there whenever he lost control. "You shouldn't touch me," he warned. "The beast doesn't like to share its cage." "Then maybe it needs to learn," she whispered. The mark pulsed beneath her palm. His breath caught, his hand closing gently over hers. "Lyra." She looked up, eyes wide, tears glistening like stars. "You said the moon doesn't reject, it waits. Maybe it was waiting for this." For a heartbeat, neither moved. Then the world itself seemed to slow, the wind pausing, the moon holding its breath. Kael's lips brushed hers, light as air, fragile as hope. It wasn't a kiss of hunger, but of surrender. When he deepened it, the mark on her wrist and his chest ignited, threads of blue fire connecting them. Light spiraled between their bodies, swirling in luminous patterns that wrapped around their hearts. Lyra gasped softly. "What's happening?" Kael's voice was a whisper against her lips. "The moon has spoken." The blue flame settled into their skin, leaving a faint intertwined sigil, half wolf, half moon. They stood there in silence, bathed in silver glow. Neither dared speak, as if a single word might break the spell. Kael finally exhaled. "You're bound to me now, body and soul." Lyra's hand trembled. "What does that mean?" He hesitated. "It means your fate and mine are one. If I fall, you fall. If you rise, I rise," she finished. Their eyes met again, and this time there was no fear, only the strange, aching certainty that something bigger than either of them had begun. Later, when the moon began to fade, Kael turned to her one last time before leaving. "You've awakened something the gods buried long ago," he said quietly. "Be careful, Lyra. Love is the most dangerous kind of magic." She smiled faintly, her heart still racing. "Then let it burn." As he walked away, her fingers brushed the glowing mark on her wrist. It pulsed once like a heartbeat answering his. For the first time in her life, she didn't feel wolfless. She felt alive. High above the garden, Lady Selene watched from a hidden balcony, her eyes cold as frost. In her hand, a shard of mirror shimmered, showing the two lovers' intertwined marks. "So the curse chooses love," she whispered. "Then love shall break him." The shard cracked, and the moon dimmed behind clouds. From the grand balcony, the lichen palace shimmered like a living diamond. Torches burning blue, the scent of roses and roasted boar in the air, laughter echoing down marble halls. It was a night meant for peace, for renewal, for the king and his chosen Luna to be blessed beneath the moon's gaze. And yet, beneath the perfume of joy, something darker moved, something venomous. Lyra stood by the edge of the ballroom, a vision of fragile beauty wrapped in moon silk. The gown Kael had gifted her shimmered like water. Her hair was braided with silver vines, her eyes glowing faintly, a sign that her dormant wolf was finally stirring. But even in her radiance, she felt the chill of 1,000 stares. The nobles whispered behind jeweled masks, voices sharp as glass. The wolfless pretender. He must be bewitched. No true Luna could be born from dirt. Lyra tried to ignore them, tried to focus on Kael, the man who had stood against the court for her, the man who had called her mine in front of them all. Tonight, he would make it official. Her heart beat fast as she looked toward the throne where he stood, tall, unyielding, in black ceremonial armor gilded with silver veins. The Alpha King. The cursed one. The man who had once vowed never to love again, now waiting for her. Their eyes met through the candlelight. He gave a faint smile, barely a flicker, but enough to melt her inside. For a heartbeat, everything was perfect. Until Lady Selene arrived. The crowd parted for her like tide from shore. Her gown, crimson as spilled blood, trailed behind her like a serpent's tongue. Her lips curved in a smile that didn't touch her eyes. "Your Majesty," she purred, bowing elegantly. "How radiant the night becomes when blessed by your presence." Kael's expression hardened. "Lady Selene, you were not summoned." "Forgive me," she said sweetly, her gaze cutting toward Lyra. "But on a night so sacred, I could not bear to see you bound by deceit." Murmurs rose instantly, electric, dangerous. Kael's tone dropped. "Explain yourself." Selene's attendant stepped forward carrying a crystal box that shimmered under moonlight. Inside it, a scroll, sealed with an ancient sigil. "Tonight," Selene said, her voice carrying across the hall, "we celebrate unity. But what if that unity is built on a lie?" The nobles leaned closer. Even the moonlight seemed to dim. Lyra frowned, confused. "What are you talking about?" Selene turned to her, eyes gleaming like firelight over oil. "Oh, poor little wolfless. You truly don't know who you are, do you?" Lyra's throat tightened. "My parents, they died when I was a child. I was told..." "Told lies," Selene interrupted, slicing her words like knives. Your parents were not victims, girl. They were traitors. The very ones who cast the curse upon the royal bloodline. The hall gasped. Kael froze. The words struck like thunder across the marble. No, Lyra whispered, shaking her head. That's not true. Selene raised the scroll. This seal, she said, was found hidden in your mother's old home. It carries the sigil of the moon defilers, the witches who sought to destroy the crown generations ago. It bears your blood mark. The guards unrolled it, and there, beneath the ancient runes, pulsed a faint red glow, the same color as the mark that had once flared on Lyra's arm. Her heart dropped. Kael's claws flickered for a second, silver and sharp. Kael, she whispered, stepping closer. You know me. I didn't. But his eyes had changed. The faint gold had darkened to storm gray. His beast stirred. His control fractured. The curse, the rage he had buried for years began to surface. Lyra reached out. Please, listen to me. But his aura hit like a thunderstorm, sending chandeliers trembling, wine spilling, guests screaming. The guards tried to step forward, but Kael roared, voice echoing like lightning through the marble walls. The room fell silent. But the silence was not peace. It was dread. He turned toward her, eyes glowing wild. Tell me the truth, Lyra. Did you know what your bloodline did to mine? Her voice broke. I didn't even know who I was until you found me. He stepped forward, each movement trembling with barely restrained violence. Your mother cursed me. My brother died because of your kind. You carry her blood. You carry her sin. Lyra backed away, tears streaming down her face. I'm not her. I would never. But his beast surged, drowning his reason. Fangs glimmered under moonlight. Lyra's pulse raced. Kael, stop. Please. For a split second, the man she knew flickered inside those haunted eyes. But the curse was stronger. The whispers in his mind grew louder, Selene's poison sinking deeper into his veins. Monster, Selene whispered behind him, pretending to weep. She's controlling you. Can't you see? She's the reason your curse returned. Kael roared, clutching his head. The guards rushed forward, silver chains drawn, but Lyra stepped between them. No, don't hurt him. The moment her hand touched his arm, the mark between them flared, burning bright, painful, alive. Kael stumbled back, gasping, torn between fury and love, between beast and man. And then, he broke. His claws ripped through the marble floor, his voice cracked through the air. Get out. Lyra froze. Leave this palace, he snarled, half beast, half man. Leave before I can't control what I am. Her tears blurred everything. Kael. He turned away, voice raw. Go. The pain in his tone was worse than the rage. She stepped back once, twice, and then ran, her gown trailing like torn wings behind her. As she fled through the palace gates, the moon dimmed above, its silver glow fading to ash. The bond between them shattered. Selene watched her go, her crimson lips curving into victory. Behind her, Kael collapsed to his knees, trembling, his breath coming in ragged gasps. See? Selene whispered, kneeling beside him. She was never meant for you. The moon has punished you again, my king. Kael's vision blurred, voices echoing, pain pulsing through his chest. The mark on his skin dimmed, as if dying. And through his haze, he heard Selene's final whisper, soft, cruel, and poisonous. Now, my king, you'll forget she ever existed. As Kael's mind falls into darkness and Lyra disappears into the forest beyond the palace, a new moon rises, blood red, signaling that the curse is not ending. It's only beginning. Or maybe it was Lyra who had. The trees that once whispered warnings now stood silent, towering like ancient sentinels. The wind that once stung her skin now brushed against her cheeks like an old friend. But the night carried her sorrow. Her gown was torn, her feet bleeding, her spirit fractured. Every step echoed the memory of Kael's voice, that voice that had once promised safety and now burned like poison. Leave before I can't control what I am. Each word replayed with merciless rhythm until it no longer sounded like him, but like every person who had ever called her nothing. The forest swallowed her sobs. She reached the old ruins at the edge of the forbidden woods, the same place where he had found her nights ago. Once, she had thought it cursed. Now it felt like home. Broken, abandoned, but still standing. The ancient stones glowed faintly with lunar dust. Moss and vines crawled over forgotten carvings, half buried in time. Lyra stumbled forward until her knees hit the cold earth. Her hands pressed against the cracked moonstone altar, a relic of a time when wolves and moon spirits walked side by side. She whispered, voice trembling, "Why? Why did you bring me here only to destroy me again?" No one answered. Only the echo of her heart filled the silence. She pressed her forehead to the altar and cried,